is huge. Run slow to run fast. What does it mean? All right, hello runners. This is Ben with Run Slow to Run Fast. Today, I wanted to give you a little bit of update on me and my running. So unfortunately, had to take the last week off. Had a little bit of a hip issue, so out of commission for a week there. Gave it a couple of days to feel normal, and then back at it this week. So ran about 3.5 miles yesterday. I'll do 6 miles or so today. And today I wanted to talk to you primarily about, where the name for the channel came from. So, run slow to run fast. What does that even mean? It's kind of a cliche almost used in the running community. And really what it means is you have to build a base of slower running in order to be able to have the cardiovascular capacity to run faster. So that's where the name for the channel came from, and today I wanted to talk to you about some of the primary principles for that and what that means. So what is a slow pace? A slow pace is going to be a little bit different for everyone. You can't necessarily measure it by your minutes per mile or things like that. What you want to do is measure it by how hard you're working. Lots of different ways to figure out how hard you're working, but generally speaking, we want it to be a conversational pace. So if you're running with someone, or if you're running alone, it should be a pace where you could carry on a conversation with someone. So for me, that's where I get probably 80 to 85% of my running is in that zone where it's easy and where I can carry on a conversation with someone. So today, and actually this entire week, because I didn't run last week, entire week is going to be only easy running. There's lots of systems out there that can help you understand what is the best kind of heart rate range for you. This one is a little more tricky because there's lots of things that are genetic that play into it. There's lots of things like what your max heart rate is. And you can use some of the formulas to guess what that is, but they're not going to be 100% accurate. So one of the ones that I generally use as a baseline for my running is the Maffetone method. And what his method is take 180, subtract your age, and that's the maximum heart rate that you should be running at. So there are some variations in that depending on how often you've been sick in the last year, how long you've been running. For me, my max heart rate based on that calculation is 148. So for most of my runs, that's what I generally target to be under. I actually really like to be closer to 140. So usually 142, 143 is generally where I average. And the Maffetone method, I don't fully agree with it because it takes out any speed work. With the Maffetone method, that's where all of your running is done, all in that easy zone. For me, I think it's important to work the top end a little bit, not a lot. For me, I usually do 1 day a week unless I'm really training hard for a more speed-focused event. Then I'll either mix in a second day during the week, or I'll kind of throw in some faster paces into a long run. So for me, my speed days are usually Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'll do either a tempo workout, a fartlek, some intervals, those type of things that will help with some turnover, and they'll work that top end speed a little bit more, just to get your legs used to turning over and to be able to sustain that speed. Some of the other things that I see happening a lot with new runners is they like running fast. Because honestly, running fast is fun. I like running fast as well. But in order to do that, usually where humans are the weakest is when it comes to cardiovascular health and cardiovascular strength. So usually your muscles, your joints, those type of things catch up fairly quickly. But what takes longer to train and to strengthen is that cardiovascular health, that cardiovascular muscle, your heart, your lungs, those type of things. So once you've been able to build that up, that's when you'll really see the most gains. So another question is, well, how do I build that up over time as a new runner? The main thing that you can do is slowly and gradually build up your mileage. So when I started running, I was doing 3 to 5 miles a run for 2, maybe 3 days a week, and have gradually built up. So right now, for some of my bigger training blocks, I usually max out at about 60 miles a week. So not a lot, especially if you compare it to elite runners that will do a lot more. They'll do 100, 120, 150. But even with those amount of numbers, they still keep those same percentages. 80, 85, even 90% of their running is on that lower end, those easier paces. So the biggest thing that you can do to get faster is to increase your amount of slow running. So if you're doing 10 miles a week right now, gradually build that up to 15, to 20, to 25. Don't make big jumps. Don't go from 10 to 25 in 1 week, but go from 10 maybe to 15, sit there for a couple weeks, and then jump to 25 after a few more weeks, and so on. So that's kind of how you're going to build up your cardiovascular strength, get to be a better runner. Some of those things that can help improve your form are the speed work, but again, do not overdo it. 10, maybe 15% of your mileage, your time, your runs should be in that faster range. But you generally want to stay in that lower, easier paces. So I'll leave some resources for you in the description of this video. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention earlier that I wanted to talk about was your rate of perceived effort, also called RPE, which is how hard do you feel like you're working. That measurement is certainly a little fuzzy, especially for new runners. They may not know what working hard feels like, what an easy pace is supposed to feel like. So understanding your rate of perceived effort, I think, is really important, and something that comes along mostly for runners that have been in the game for a little bit longer. For a newer runner, you probably want to stay pretty close to some of those heart rate ranges that we talked about earlier. Maybe using the Maffetone method as a way to get started. Just understanding, what is it that your heart's telling you? How hard is it working? Those type of things. Now, there's certainly some variability in that on how you're measuring it. So for me, I use a Garmin watch, and that gives me my heart rate. Not totally accurate. You're going to get more accurate readings with something like a chest strap, or even in a lab. A lab is obviously going to be, the gold standard there for things like heart rate. But I think watches nowadays do a fairly good job of helping you understand that. There have been times when my watch doesn't really give me good readings, and I know now, as a little bit more seasoned runner, if my watch is telling me that my heart rate's really high, but I don't feel like I'm working that hard, then that's generally when I just kind of stay with what I feel, that rate of perceived effort. So make sure to include that as well. All right, well, getting ready to wrap up my run for the day. Got about a little over a mile left, but wanted to share one final thought with you about what it means, run slow to run fast. What does that mean? One of the things that you want to ask yourself is, how long do you want to be running? Are you looking at doing a 5K and then you never want to run again? If so, then maybe, these principles don't apply to you. But if you're someone who enjoys endurance sports and wants to be running for years to come, that's where run slow to run fast really comes into play, because it's going to help you avoid injury. You can almost think about a trend line of, the heart rate ranges that you're running in. The harder that you're running, the more likely you are to get injured. So, if you want to be running for the foreseeable future, then one of the things that you need to be doing is incorporating a lot of slow running into your training plan. You can look at, it's easy to look at a lot of elite runners and say, wow, they're running at 8-minute mile pace, 7-minute mile pace all the time. Well, the reason that they can do that is they've put in years, decades of easy running that allows them to run at those paces and keep their heart rate down. So to them, that's an easy pace. If you can run a marathon at a 5-minute pace, then your easy running is going to be at 7 or 8 minutes per mile. For me, I'm roughly a 4-hour marathon guy, maybe a little bit less. Haven't put the rubber to the road on that one just yet, but have done an ultra marathon. And the biggest factor for me in success in my ultra marathon was that easy running. I really felt it the second half of the race when my heart had to be what was taking over. Couldn't be my legs. Obviously there's a lot of other factors there, nutrition, other things. But the biggest factor in success for my ultra marathon was 4 months of easy running. Just keeping that heart rate low, building up that aerobic base, not dipping into that anaerobic territory very often, and making sure that my heart was strong. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. If you enjoyed it, obviously like, subscribe, do all that stuff. I'll get you another video next week. Plan is to get you weekly videos. So for now, you guys have a great one. Enjoy your running, and we'll see you on the next one.